What's up, guys? Me again. So today's video has the potential to be a very exciting video because we're going to be talking about something in regards to photography that I've been wanting to do for a long time. Now, if you know me and you know my channel and maybe my Instagram and stuff like that, you know I take lots of film photos and I shoot all of those film photos on 35mm. And 35mm is a great format, a great medium to get into film photography, and it's good for almost anything. It's really, really versatile. You've got lots of different film stocks to choose from, lots of different cameras to choose from, so it's really, really great. But for some things, especially the things that I've been photographing a lot recently, which has been landscapes, I'm focusing to infinity a lot. And especially with the camera and old lenses that I have, focusing to infinity can sometimes get a little bit grainy, a little bit fuzzy. You don't get a lot of detail when you're going really, really far into your focusing scale. So with that being said, I've decided, one, to get something that can kind of up my game with landscape photography and maybe get a little bit more detail out of my images, and two, just kind of challenge me. I wanted to get something that was very, very different of an experience from my 35mm rangefinder, and I've done that. I've gotten a medium format camera. So this camera I'm about to show you is not my first attempt at getting a medium format camera. Some of you may know this, but most of you probably don't. I've actually been looking for one for quite a while, and the first camera that I bought was a Pentacon 6. Now the Pentacon 6 is a pretty cool camera. It's a 6x6 SLR, and it's kind of just a giant, like a 35mm SLR, so it kind of looks like a Pentax 6.7 or something like that. It's got a waist level viewfinder. It's really kind of a cool Art Deco looking design, and it's got access to really, really nice Carl Zeiss lenses, which I bought 2 of for the camera system, which was a mistake because the camera didn't work. It didn't feed film correctly at all. So luckily I contacted the seller and he was really, really nice. He said, hey, just send it back and I'll give you a replacement. I actually have tons of these cameras and we get them serviced all the time, so I can send you a replacement for free, no problem. And I said, great, I'll do that. So I sent him back the original Pentacon 6 and got another body to go with my 2 lenses that I bought for the system, and that one also had the same problem. So yeah, I got rid of both of those, I got a refund, and sold off the lenses for that, and now I have my 3rd attempt at a medium format camera, and it's this. The Japanese Bronica S2A. So, if you guys have been kind of into film photography for a while and you've kind of gotten down the rabbit hole of looking at medium format cameras, I'm sure you've come across Bronica as a brand and maybe their later cameras like the ETRS, the SQ, the GS1, cameras like that. So the S2A is part of Bronica's kind of previous generation of cameras before the electronics and all of that stuff. So this actually is a 6x6 camera also. It's more of a Hasselblad shape and style. It's got removable film backs, it's got a waist level viewfinder, and it's got really nice selection of both Xenon and Nikkor lenses. So that's actually really, really cool, and I'm really excited to get to use it, especially this 75mm 2.8 lens, which is on it right now. So yeah, today what we're going to do is we're going to take this camera out. We're going to test it. We're going to test all of the functionality of it. We're going to test and see if there's any light leaks. We're going to see if the film feeds correctly. We're going to see if all the shutter speeds are accurate or reasonably accurate. And yeah, we're just going to see how it works. And I'm really excited to try it. And hopefully this will be my first successful attempt at shooting medium format. So let's go. So after far too many issues, I loaded my first roll of Portra 400 into the Bronica and headed out. My first stop was this printing shop, where I ran into a bit of an issue with the camera already. Okay, I took 2 shots of that printing place, and did the same thing. I had to hold the camera against my chest and wind so that there would be tension, I guess. I don't know what you should call it, but it kind of seems like the gears are just like barely touching from the camera body to the back right here. Seems like they're just barely touching, which doesn't make sense though, because when I wind this moves. So the gears are touching, but it doesn't seem to do anything until I press it against my chest, which is weird. You guys can help me down in the comments if you know what that is, but yeah, that's what's happening. But I think it's working as long as I do that, so we'll see. For this shot, the light meter on my phone just failed me. Moment of truth, I just kind of rattled off some shots at the end because it was getting dark. Didn't feel like putting it on the tripod because I don't even know if it works yet. So, moment of truth. Oh, let's fucking go! We made it through the roll! It actually worked. It did, in fact, wind all the way through, which is great. Now, we're going to take this home. I'm going to develop it, and we're going to see if the frame spacing is at all correct, because like I said, I had to like press it against my chest to get it to actually wind, so we'll see. That night, after taking the film home and developing it, I was happy to see a complete roll with no overlapping images. So the next day, I was out again, doing further testing. After I slightly missed focus on this shot, I headed out into the country to take some photos of horses. Alright, so we're going to do a 1-second exposure, and I'm really curious about camera shake with this camera because there's no mirror lockup, because the mirror automatically flips up and flips back down. Alright, got the settings written down, now it's time to move on. While I was out here shooting, I met this really cool dude named Jake, who actually has seen some of the videos and shoots film around here also, so that's really, really cool. Hopefully we can go out and I'll shoot a video with him sometime, and we can go out and do some long exposure stuff, or maybe just whatever we feel like shooting. But yeah, really cool dude. Didn't expect to meet somebody who's actually seen my videos at this point. So, pretty awesome. Let's move on. Hello there. We are at this spot again, which I was photographing in the afternoon yesterday, but I've been wanting to get this shot at night for a long time. I've been trying to get this shot since I got my other medium format camera that didn't work, so this shot has been a long time coming. But I don't know if you can see it right here, but there's a snow cone place that's really well lit up with some neon lights, and there are a couple light poles kind of leading the way to it that are lit, and they kind of cast this light on the ground, which should look really, really cool if I can get the camera high up enough. So that's the compositional idea, is to kind of have these little islands of light leading you to the empty snow cone place at the end of the parking lot. So yeah, that's what we're gonna try and get, and we're gonna see how this turns out. This might be one that I bracket just because I really want something to turn out of this shoot. So yeah, let's see what we can get. Alright, I went around and metered, and we're going to do f8, one exposure at 2 seconds, and one exposure at half a second. That way, hopefully, one of those will be usable. So we'll see. These photos have a really noticeable light leak or lens flare going on, so I'll have to see what can be done about that. The photo's cool though. Next stop was this car wash, which has really cool branding. This was the last shot of this roll, and the next day I was out shooting yet again, this time with my friends Ethan and Blake. I didn't really record while shooting this roll, so here are the photos that I took. So, after shooting a few rolls with this camera and testing it out a little bit, what do I think of the Bronica S2A? Well, I think, honestly, if you're starting to think about getting into medium format and you really like the form factor of a Hasselblad, but you don't have the money, this is honestly a really great and comparable option to that. So I did run into a couple of problems while I was shooting with this camera, but I don't really think they're really major problems. There's things that you can kind of alleviate yourself, but they are pretty common. So if you're thinking about buying one of these cameras, you're probably going to run into one or two of these issues. The first and biggest issue was with focusing. So these cameras commonly suffer from focusing issues, and it's because they're so old, but what happens is basically when you're looking in the viewfinder, what you see to be in focus is not what's actually in focus through the lens. And it's really not a tough problem to fix, and you can fix it yourself. And it only comes about when you're focusing on things that are closer to you. I didn't really have this issue when I was focusing on stuff at infinity, but as I brought subjects closer and closer to the camera, the focusing issue became more and more apparent. So it's definitely something I'm going to need to take care of, but should be something I can fix myself. The other issue I had with this camera was it's got a bit of a light leak, which also didn't show up in all of the pictures, but sometimes it showed up and it really kind of messed with the image. So something I'm going to need to take care of, and if you buy one of these cameras, you can either go about fixing it yourself with some light seal foam, or you can get another back, because there's quite a few backs out there online for sale, and they're not super expensive. They're probably like anywhere between 60 and $100. So That's pretty reasonable, especially when you're comparing this to a Hasselblad system. So now that we've gotten the issues out of the way, let's talk about what I love about this camera. The first thing is this lens. This is a 75mm f2.8 Nikkor lens, and it is amazing. It renders stuff beautifully, it's really sharp, and the 75mm focal length is equivalent to about a 40 or 41mm on 35mm or full frame. I really like this focal length because it's a little bit wider than 50, but it gives you a little bit more compression than 35. And it's a really, really great all-around focal length, and it just gives you this unique look. Also, the viewfinder is really bright, and that makes focusing pretty easy. And the magnifying glass is also pretty nice, although mine's kind of jank. It doesn't really like to come up unless I have these little side wings in the exact right place, but not really an issue. And yeah, the viewfinder is just really great. And using this camera overall is just a really nice experience. So that's about all I have for you in this video, guys. I hope you liked it. I hope it wasn't too long for you. And I'm having a lot of fun experimenting with different film formats and different cameras. And hopefully I can continue to do that in the future. But for now, I'm having a lot of fun with this camera. So expect more content with this very soon. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye now.